we're good to go with all of our technical stuff.
Yeah.
Our presentations.
I think we're ready to roll. We've got quorum. Welcome, Mayor Davis, and welcome, Ron Johnson. And I see Blaine there. And Brantford family. Sean, if you want to change your name, you can take your mask off. I don't think you can give us COVID from the screen here. So welcome, everybody. Kelly, you've done the roll call.
Yeah, I'm just going to take the folks from Hamilton Flight Center or flight training back, take them off again, now that we know we'll be able to see them. If they don't mind just unmuting for a moment so we make sure we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you. So I'm going to take you off again because until it's time for your presentation, and then I'll promote you back up and you can join video at that time. Okay. Okay, thank you. So I'd like to remind our board and our viewing public of a few procedural rules for our virtual meeting and operating as efficiently as possible. All board members will be muted for the meeting to reduce feedback. All cameras for the board members and support staff shall be turned on. Any board member should indicate they wish to speak by pressing the raise hand button on the toolbar at the bottom of the screen or from the participant listing. Board members are requested to lower the hand when you've been recognized by the chair. In the event a connection service interruption occurs that affects quorum of the board, we may recess for up to 15 minutes. If quorum is not achieved, the meeting will be adjourned. Movers and seconders will be indicated by physically raising their hands, and votes will be taken by a show of hands. Members of the board, is there anybody that has any conflict of interest? I'm assuming you've taken time to go through the whole agenda. And seeing none, we have 3 presentations today. The first presentation is Hamilton Flight Training, and that's Blaine, I guess you're there, and is Jody and Nuno, forgive me if I butchered the names. Are they presenting too, or you've gone to get them? Oh, that's the mayor's left. Okay. Blaine, welcome. Or is that Jody and Nuno?
Yes, you have Jody and Nuno. I'm kind of sitting off to the side. I'll let the camera shine on them.
Okay.
I will let them do the talking.
Welcome. Welcome to the meeting. I think I'm not going to introduce every board member, but you can see who's here. So you do have a lot of people, including the mayor of Brantford is attending as an ex officio member of all boards. So you have the floor and welcome.
Thank you very much. We wanted to start today just by thanking Brant Aero and City of Brantford for inviting us in our school over the last 6 months. We've had a really great reception from our students, and it was a quick pivot for us, but it's been a great home. So we're looking forward to today for you to find out a little bit more about our flight training and to hopefully move forward. So our mission here at Hamilton Flight Training was established with the philosophy to provide aspiring pilots with the necessary inspiration to achieve their goal to become a licensed pilot. At Hamilton Flight Training, we have the personnel and the equipment required to facilitate their achievement. From sleek modern aircraft to well-trained experienced instructors, every student at Hamilton Flight Training is given the attention and respect they deserve. So our 5-year plan and plane movement, we are on a path for growth. Our shareholders have invested in our future. We currently own 3 Diamond aircrafts and have 5 on order. The plan will be to have 8 planes by 2025. These units are modern, equipped with glass cockpits, and have the newest fleet. We pretty much have the newest fleet in all the Golden Horseshoe. We've looked around. We offer flight training, sightseeing tours to the falls in Toronto, and small hops at affordable prices. We currently have 65 active students, and we have 2 full ground school courses and another one opening up in January. Our ground school does operate out of Hamilton, and it allows our students to come to ground school primarily where they live and then out to the airport for their flight training. Annual movement of the aircraft for 2021 is approximately about 2,600 takeoffs. This averages based on 2 planes from January to November. We did add our 3rd plane in late November. So this factors the factors we talk about are less movement might be weather, maintenance schedules, and our downtime of our fleet is minimal, obviously due to the age of our planes, and that Brant Aero does take care of our maintenance schedules, so we can work around flight schedules. Nuno works with Blaine to make sure that our planes are optimal for our students with less downtime. Estimated movement coming into 2022, once we're able to add another aircraft, should be approximately 9,600. And that again is based on about 50 takeoffs a week per unit. Our instructors, Nuno here is our operations manager, and we have a dedicated team of experienced licensed flight instructors currently on staff. We have 2 Category 2 pilots and 3 Category 4 pilots. Nuno is currently working toward the Category 1 instructor rating, and this will help us, maintain our own instructors, provide training from within, set expectations, and drive our culture. Our executive team, Nuno and myself, you've met here, so operations manager and director. We have Sasha, who is our CFI, and he does the TC flight exams. And then Blaine has been obviously working with us on all of our maintenance, the sublease agreement to the hangar and office space that we are currently renovating. So our office space, we are currently have been working out of Brant Aero, but we're refurbishing the roadside offices and the south hangar. So this is pending, obviously, a long-term lease agreement. Our goal is to secure a 3 to 5 year lease in this space, and our ground school again is located in Hamilton. So we will be able to provide some training here, but ideally we'll be working from both spaces. And community. So what have we brought to the city of Brantford, and what are we hoping to bring in the future? Our short-term home here has really provided our students with a look into the Brant County. So most of them travel 30 to 40 minutes to get here, some up to 60, because we were initially in that Hamilton area and our ground school is in Hamilton. We do have students as far as Mississauga. So, when we talk about gas stations and fast food restaurants, some just even, seeing Brantford for this first time and realizing, the local farms out here. The restaurant gets frequented by a lot of our staff and our students. So the Tailwind sees us quite regularly. We do all of our maintenance through Brant Aero, and then our fuel is supplied by the BFC. And Nuno had estimated probably anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 in expenses of fuel per month. We are dedicated to high quality training, utilizing a safe, up-to-date fleet with regular maintenance. Safety is our #1 priority, and we are excited about joining the Brantford community, providing growth, income, and stimulus to the Brantford Airport and surrounding area. Our hope is to have a secure lease and have a beautiful grand opening, and hopefully the council members can join us and we can celebrate the next 3 to 5 years in Brantford.
Good job.
So attached to our presentation, there are some pictures, and that's of our current fleet. And as you can see, our dashboard with all up-to-date instruments. Our last page there, we do have some pictures that are, near and dear to our hearts here. We have our, solo flight, first flights students there with Nuno. The other one is somebody just taking a nice little hop. She's wanted to, travel a little further, and why not take a plane? And the bottom, super proud, that's Adam, and he was 14 when he was able to have his first solo flight. So really trying to give back to the community and let them see what our planes can do.
And that was actually widely introduced in the newspaper in Hamilton. The Hamilton Spectator actually wrote a very nice article on this occasion. They did mention quite extensively the Brantford area and its airport.
So is there any questions or anything that we can clarify?
The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a mover or a seconder to put this on the floor. Moved by Councillor Coleman, seconded by Member Johnson. And any questions before I call the question on it? Councillor Martin, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. I thought this was set up initially as a temporary location. By your presentation, it seems like you want to make this your permanent home. Is that this situation here?
So we initially, we are hoping to get ourselves established at Hamilton International Airport. Unfortunately, that's been taking a little bit longer than we anticipated. We're going to have to build our own hangar there in the near future. Our intent is correct. It was intentionally meant to be temporary, but to be honest, we've kind of grown to enjoy it here, and our students seem to like it here. So ideally, we're probably going to be operating from both airports in the future once we do establish our home in Hamilton as well. We would like to keep a sub base here in Brantford.
Okay.
Any other questions? So I guess what you're asking of us is for permission. Is that correct? Rick, help me out here if you can, to operate out of here.
That's correct.
Rick, you want to
Yeah,
jump in, sir?
Thank you, Chairman Mark. My name's Rick Cox. I'm the Director of Facility Management and Security here for the city. I'm acting in that role for now. And I guess, yes, that's correct. You are the initial permission was granted on a temporary basis for kind of basing the planes here and doing the training out of Hamilton. But the business model has evolved. And so, yes, there would need to be some discussion around this table, and obviously the risk management aspects would need to be reviewed with the airport manager and management to make sure that what the school here wants to do is something that the airport can safely accommodate. So there are a few steps that we need to go through, but in addition to the lease and all that other stuff that Jody and Nuno mentioned. So I think this is appropriate for them to provide the information to the board about what their plans are, what their aspirations are, and to specifically ask for, the board support or not for what their intent is around the Brantford Airport location.
So I guess, Jody and Nuno, what I'm hearing is, can you put an official request into us so it can be considered? It's obviously the commission is just an advisory board, as you're probably aware, but the ultimate power is with council to make the decision. Can you put it's a nice presentation and we like what you do. And can you make an official request to us and send it to Rick of what your plans are for the use of our airport?
Okay, Blaine's informing me that that's been completed.
Okay. Rick, do we have that?
Yeah, so I have a communication from Blaine that's asking specifically for that, and
Okay.
this is part of that process so that the presentation can be made for the board, and then if there's endorsement, and then I can take that under advisement, and we can work forward with Blaine and his people for the location in the hangar, and we can work with Jody and Nuno on the operations side to make sure that what we're trying to do here isn't going to impact the airport negatively.
Okay. Well, I don't see anybody else has raised their hands. So thank you for taking the time to present to us today. Through staff, somebody will be getting back to you and everything else. Unless you had any more questions of us. I don't. Councillor Martin, you have a hand up. I'm sorry, sir.
Just a question through to Rick. When can we expect the risk assessment to be done and see the results of that?
Going to need to spend some time with Sean on reviewing what we have. So I would think that within the next 10 days to 2 weeks, we can do that. We can complete that and provide an answer to everybody at the next meeting of the board, and certainly before that to Hamilton Flight Training.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much. I'll call the question. I'm receiving that. Everybody in favor, raise their hands. And we were unanimous. Thank you very much. Second presentation comes from Latitude Air Ambulance. And Kelly, I assume they're ready and they're here.
Yeah, just give me one moment to promote them up so they can
Do them up.
so we can see them also. So we've got Jim and Peter. I'm promoting both them up, so we'll be able to see both of them if they have anything so they can both present to us. Let's see. We've got Jim. And there's Peter. Okay, and I will get your presentation here.
Welcome, gentlemen. If you could unmute yourself there, and you have the floor.
That's a scary thing. Well, I guess looking at my picture is even scarier. Jim, are you there?
He was on my screen,
Oh,
Peter.
okay.
So
He's just
there.
muted right now. And I've got your presentation here. So as we're going through, just let me know when you want me to switch the slide and I'll flip along for you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kelly. Hi, guys and gals. My name is Peter Bile, CEO and founder of Latitude Air Ambulance. We're currently based out of Hamilton. We are an international air ambulance company. We built the company since we started in 2009. We now run 4 Gulfstream 100s, 2 Learjet 35As, and we just got our first Beech 1900 outfitted as a bariatric neonate capable air ambulance. We do over 400 repatriations a year. We've flown to more than 130 different countries around the world. We are internationally accredited by URAMI, Argus, Orange, client list, the largest insurance companies in the world and the largest assistance companies in the world.
Question, who's got control of the slide presentation?
Kelly does.
Kelly does.
Oh, okay, Kelly.
Yep,
Yeah.
I do. Just let me know when you want me to flip it and I'll scroll through.
Yeah. So this is Jim Muir. I believe he knows some of the folks there. Jim is actually one of our pilots here and also a businessman in his own right. And I just wish I was as smart as him, but I'm not. I'm a pilot. So, but anyway, so I'm just giving them a little overview, Jim, on the company.
Yep.
And then I think we can start with the slide presentation. Our presentation today, gang, is all about kind of who we are and our initial ask, and see if there's anything that we can do together. If you can flip the slide there, Kelly. Like I said, we were established 2009, global medevac provider, and over 400 missions a year. We do worldwide operations. We specialize in it. We changed the industry from a Learjet kind of business where there's no bathroom and stuff in the back to the Gulfstreams. And here it is, we've been doing that 5 years. Now we find that there's other people getting into that market, and they like the idea of a bathroom, especially if you're sitting in the back of an airplane for 20 hours. The spouse really likes to be able to use the facilities. Our latest venture, sorry, Kelly, if you can back it up one. Our latest venture is, you'll see the Beech 1900 there. The Beech 1900 is a bit of a pivot for us. Most airline companies or aviation companies, once they're in a jet program, they stay in a jet program. And for us, we're actually going back into a turboprop. And the reason for that is over 20% of North Americans, and I'm using a generic number that comes out of the US as well as Canada, are considered to be obese, in that the medical side of it, diabetes and obesity go hand in hand. Diet goes hand in hand with that, and sedentary lifestyles. But we're getting more and more people that won't fit into a normal air ambulance aircraft. And there have been cases up north in the northern communities where, they're being loaded on board aircraft with forklifts and strapped to the floor, that kind of thing. So the Beach 1900, we just finished our first bariatric move, actually. They came home last night, but it was from Hamilton to Phoenix, Arizona, up to Calgary. And he was a big man. He was 6'2", 400 pounds, but the airplane handled it very well. And the crew was really quite at ease with it, as was the patient, because it got a bigger bed on it, longer. It uses an electric lift, so you don't have to try to hoist them and move them in. And anyway, we are getting more of these because we do see that there is a place in the market for these type of aircraft. So we could switch now, Kelly. So our typical crew consists of RN, RT, or MD, or and a captain and first officer. They're all two crews. We've got people from, we're kind of like the United Nations. We like to say we've got people who speak Hindu, Chinese, Russian, Nigerian. We got a little bit of everything here. Currently have 65 people on staff, and that's between our maintenance operation, our operations control center upstairs here, our flight operations. We have 20 pilots. We have medical teams, as well as medical managers, medical director. It is not just an aviation company. We're combined medical with aviation. So we've got the aviation side of it with all of that regulatory stuff. And then we've got the medical side of it with all the regulatory stuff for the medical side. We have people who live in Brantford, live in Hamilton, live in London, all over. And at our peak prior to COVID, we had 90 people on payroll. So it's a fairly substantial payroll. We can flip to the next one there, Kelly. And there we go with the annual. We don't do 1,000 neonatals. That's total. We do, most of that is tourists, people who've gone to Florida, Mexico, Caribbean, people off cruise ships, people working abroad, as well as we have a contract in Bermuda for the Bermudian Hospital Board, and we do, I think, 120 to 150 a year for them. We do a lot of organ transplants for Orange. We're on their organ transplant list, so we do about 150 a year there. And then we do work for Middle Eastern embassies, that kind of stuff. If you look on the left-hand side of the slide there, that's our general manager hiding inside of our COVID pod. That is how we transport COVID positive patients. We've now moved over 100 COVID positive patients around the world, in and out of China, India, North America, Caribbean, South America, Africa. We can move on there, Kelly. As I said before, we're URAMI accredited as well as Argus. We just finished another URAMI accreditation. That is the industry standard. It's the gold standard. They do their accreditation once every 3 years, but it's very exhaustive. I measured the manuals and the paperwork required to do that audit, and it was 22 inches high. But they go into every little part of our operation, from operations to medical operations, flight operations, maintenance, dispatch, as well as our financial capabilities and our human resources, that kind of stuff. We can move on there, Kelly. As I said, that's kind of our list. Those are the tails for our G100 fleet, but the travel insurance industry, travel is still growing. A couple of examples, guys. 2019, prior to COVID, the cruise industry alone moved 35 million people. Total tourist movements in 2019 worldwide were over 300 million people. The airline industry was growing at 6 to 8% per year. Government agencies, we've worked for Global Affairs. We do work for those who shall remain nameless, Canada Customs. One of our lead clients actually has the TRICARE health contract, which covers every U.S. Defense Department employee as well as their loved ones and retirees worldwide. We do organ transfers for every province in Canada. We send our airplanes, and we get a lot of satisfaction out of that because, if somebody is kind enough to donate their organs, sometimes we can affect the lives of 5, 6 other patients with one organ harvest. So we'll move on, Kelly. As we said before, we do local, we do North American, we do the world. The world is our playground. Moving on. The growing need is, here's another stat for you. 100 years ago, and I'm going to ask all of you just to think back to your grandparents, because you're all in, younger or the same age as I am. But think back to your grandparents. Most people lived and died within 100 miles of where they were born 100 years ago. Now we've got kids going to school around the world. We've got people who are going to Machu Picchu. They want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. They want to live other cultures and see other cultures. So travel is not something that will stop. Countries that we used to think of as third world are now coming to Canada. Look at our immigration. Our immigration trend is no longer out of Europe. Our immigration trend is out of Africa, the Middle East, Asia. And they will come here, but guarantee you, when you get sick, where do you want to go home? You want to go home. You don't want to sit here. So we see that as a continuing need, and one that will help sustain our growth going into the future. Moving on. There we go. We were at peak staff of 100. 25 million was, a 2019 number. We believe we're not done growing. We believe we can build a company up to 40 plus million. Moving on. Our short-term challenge right now is we're at 7 airplanes, guys. We've got an 8th airplane coming in January. We see by the end of next year that we'll have our 3rd 1900, and we'll be moving towards a larger jet aircraft to help sustain that longer range market. The market trend is changing a little bit. COVID's not going away. We're going to have to learn to live with it. So people will get vaccinated, or they will not get vaccinated, whatever. But they will still catch COVID, whether you're vaccinated or non-vaccinated, you will catch COVID. It's just how you respond to it will be different. But we see people going back to traveling and then catching COVID and then wanting to come home. And so we have to get aircraft that can adjust to that new reality because it's not going away. So our short-term challenge right now is we need a place to store our airplanes. Our current facility is too small for us. It's too small for our aircraft. It's so we end up with airplanes sitting out on the ramp. They try to accommodate us as best they can, but they're running out of room. And when we moved here, we had 4 airplanes, and now we see ourselves being up to 8 airplanes by next year. So the ask right now is for short term is a cold storage facility for us. And by that, we mean we'll fly 1 airplane around the world, but we'll use 3 crews to do it. And then it comes down and it goes in, we rotate the next airplane out for the next mission. So by being able to rotate our fleet of 4 airplanes on the Gulfstream 100 side, we're able to manage our engine overhaul costs, our maintenance costs, and our downtime costs. So while 1 airplane is out, number 2 is getting ready to go. Number 3 and 4 are either in maintenance or they're being stored out on the ramp, waiting for the first ones to come back and then shift them through. Moving on, Kelly. And that's our long-term goal. That's why we're here. We're looking for a long-term home, and we're looking for a place that we can grow with our landlord, but our landlord also wants to grow with us. And Jim knows some of the folks out there in your neck of the woods, and said maybe we should consider Brantford. I mean, there's pros and cons to it from our perspective, but we can get into those a little later on here. So moving on, Kelly. Like we said, we churned through, we're kind of like a government operation. We churn through money at a great rate of knots. And we use over 1 million liters of fuel out of our home base, which is Hamilton, per year. And we're now paying $1.20 a liter. We utilize, out of the 25 million, 20 million is going back into the economy one way or another at some point in time and some point in space. Our payroll it's all highly skilled people, highly paid. And, if we get back to 100 people, we're looking at $7 million, $8 million a year in payroll. We currently use aircraft spruce quite a bit. We use Brant Aero a little bit. We do see a need as we get bigger for R&O stuff, repair and overhaul, brakes and that kind of stuff. We think can be done better in a smaller airport than sending away a lot of our stuff. We have to send away to the States, and that's not ideal, but that's the reality of it right now. But maintenance and repair organization, we are licensed to do that. Can we grow into that? Yeah, it's another revenue stream. We could if we had a spot and we had the facilities. Moving on, Kelly. That's exactly what I was talking about. And I think I'm one slide behind here, but there. This is a tricky slide. I don't know if this matters to the owners of the airport, to the county and the city, but we just went through our URAMI audit, and I was talking to the auditor who was doing the audit, and he's based out of London. And I said, geez, Michael, we're just a little company here in Canada, and he says, boy, you Canadians just sell yourselves short all the time. He said, you guys are an international presence. He said, don't ever think that you're just a little company out of Hicksville, Canada. He says, you're known throughout the world. When we talk about the prestige of an airport and the city of Brantford, I mean, yeah, I think it's a big deal. But I've been here since the beginning. I don't know if you guys think having an international air ambulance based out of Brantford is a big deal or not. That's your choice to make. We think we're just hardworking pickup truck. Well, we are. We're hardworking pickup truck kind of guys, and we don't put on airs or anything else. We tell it like it is. We own up to our mistakes. We take personal accountability and responsibility for everything we do, but we take a lot of pride in integrity and our compassion, and that comes through to our clients and our customers and their patients. When people are broken and they're in need, we bring them home. The airport is it's got growth potential. Is it ideal for us? No, I'll be blunt. It's not. It's only 5,000 feet. If it's raining in Brantford, we're in trouble. If the runway is not cleared with 5,000 feet, we're in trouble. The 1900 isn't, but the Lears and the jets are. But Brantford is also listed as an international port of entry. Will Customs ever open an office here? I don't know. It's hard to think that they have an office open here some days because we're waiting an hour and a half on a ramp and we can throw a rock and hit the customs building. And then it takes an hour and a half for them to come outside and clear you. But I think it is something that we can look at going forward. And we'll talk about that a little further down. Moving on, Kelly. We believe that we will bring more money into the airport, to the airport community, and the optimization of airport assets. It's more a utilization of airport assets. Does an asset, it sits there as a physical asset, but until you put humans in, that's all it is. It's just, a physical asset. You put humans in the picture and suddenly that asset can grow and it has life. And that's what we think we can bring to the airport. Moving on, Kel. So that's our little pitch. We still have 4 more to go, but we believe we're changing the world one person at a time. If any of you have been sick or you've had somebody who's been sick, you know how important it is to get back home. And what we feel is that when we bring people home, and I'm a firm believer in this, guys, this is what gets me up in the morning and it gets the team up in the morning. We will bring somebody home who will have an impact on a son, daughter, grandchild, and uncle who will change the world. Every one of us knows 6 people. So you look at 1,000 repatriations a year, 6 people who know 6 people who know 6 people. It turns into a Christmas tree of hope pretty quick. And all of the hassles and BS that we see in the world today would go away if people would turn around and talk to each other. So we feel that's what we're doing. Moving on, Kelly. That's again everything we've been talking about: the repatriations, the medevacs, the medical escorts, bed finding, the organ transfers, COVID. We just came back from Alberta. We went out to help them move people and alleviate their ICU stress levels. We did 83 missions, 7 weeks, and moved 83 people to other hospitals within the province to free up ICU beds so that they could handle the 4th wave that they were getting of COVID. And it worked very well. It was great for us, but it put a strain on our operation. But the team felt vindicated when we would go out and move 3 patients a day and move COVID patients to higher levels of care, move non-COVID patients out to rehab centers and that kind of stuff. Moving on, Kelly. Again, what we've been talking about worldwide, the only place we have not gone yet is Antarctica. And we have a plan for getting there. We have one of our clients who there's 63 cruise ships that cruise around Antarctica. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. 63 out there waving at the penguins and shaking in flippers with penguins and stuff. So we do have a plan to get there and get those sick people off the island and or off Antarctica if they do get sick. Moving on. That's us. We're a small company. We all know each other. We're all pilots. The only one who isn't a pilot is a bandmate of mine that I've known for 50 years. We both had hair then. We had our own teeth, our own hair, playing in high school. And I've known Ray ever since. But the rest of us we're all pilots, own airplanes or fly airplanes. So Latitude Air Medical Works is our parent company, and then Latitude Air Ambulance is the operating company, and Compass Aircraft is our maintenance, our approved maintenance organization by Transport Canada. Moving on. That's a picture of our fleet. Up in the top left, those are the 4 Gulf Streams. And to the right of that is another picture of the Learjet. And then below that is the picture of our new 1900, which is outfitted with 8 seats and can be double stretcher. Right now we have it with a bariatric stretcher. Bariatric stretcher is capable of 700 pounds, and the electric lift in the back is specially designed and STC'd to lift 700 pounds. It's the only one of its kind. I shouldn't say that. There's one in Newfoundland, which is the folks in Newfoundland are the ones who are doing the modifications to our specs on these airplanes. But so there's 2 like it in North America. Everywhere else, they move bariatric patients either by freighter aircraft or by road transport. So we feel there's a real niche in that market, and we're going hard after that market. Moving on, Kelly. And that's it, guys. Didn't want to take up your whole afternoon here, but I can talk about the business for days. I think what we do is important. It gives a quality of life to people who need help. You know, people who've broken themselves, their diseases catch up to them, whatever. I mean, they're trying to see the world, and they want to come home when they get sick. So,
Well, thank you, Peter. I'd ask for a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor before we go to questions. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Thomas, and all those in favor. Well, I'll call the question on after. Any questions, please? Sure. Councillor Martin, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your presentation. I think your company would be a great fit for our airport. Have you looked at the old solar ship hangar, the real tall hangar at the airport? Is that big enough for your needs at the moment?
yes, it is. We have looked at it. We went out. It's very tall. I don't think I can justify a 737 yet, but it will definitely handle the aircraft that we foresee in our future at this time, which are larger corporate aircraft outfitted as medical. So it is, yes.
And the next question is, would you be willing to sign a long-term lease if we were to build something more suitable for your needs?
Yes, yeah. I mean, like we said at the start, Councillor, we're looking for a home. We're not a fly by night. Well, we do fly by night, but we're not. You know, we've been here for a while, and we have a track record. So I guess what I'm trying to say, we've been around since 2009. We don't really contemplate going anywhere, except I can see us at 12, 13 airplanes to satisfy our customer base that we have now. And yes, would we like to build? Yes, we would. Could it be a joint venture? Yes, we're interested in that. Or we're interested in a long-term lease. But, you know, that I think, you know, is there room with the Starship hangar? How does that look? I mean, we talked to Rick a little bit about that. I mean, if we looked at building more on the west side, I believe if the airport gets expanded a little bit, if we can get to 5,600 feet on the runway, we can attract a lot of people that are having trouble finding hangarage in Hamilton. You can't. Toronto, you can't. Kitchener, you can't. I mean, even London's starting to fill up. Guys are building hangars north of Toronto in an effort to find storage for their airplanes. So.
Is that it, Councillor Martin?
Yeah, wonderful. I'm hoping we can come to some kind of arrangement that we can accommodate you. I'm looking forward to more information coming to this committee. Thank you.
Mayor Davis, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And sorry I haven't showed up at your airport commission previously. Now I try to get to all of the task force and advisory committees that I sit ex officio on. But got a question. Thanks very much, Peter. So you mentioned that, so you have 12 to 13 airplanes right now in your fleet?
No, we have 7 right now.
Right.
And I can see us growing to 12 to 13, Mayor. Yeah.
Right. And so which of the planes you have right now would you not be storing here in Brantford because of the length of our airport, the length of our runway?
We can operate all of them off the airport right now. Where we do run into a problem though is if it rains, we have to take wet runway numbers and adjust our takeoff length. So that especially critical for the Learjet because it's such a high performance. Jim would know that he's a Lear captain with us. And the Gulfstream, we would have to take off with a reduced fuel load. But normally 5,000 feet is what we operate off of. That's our minimum fuel length pretty much around the world. Find a 5,000 foot parking lot, we can get in there.
Right, and so for you to consider Brantford as a permanent home, how long would you want the runway to be to merit consideration as a long-term home?
I think if we're looking at a long-term, and like Councillor Martin says, we're looking at a long-term lease and stuff. The larger aircraft we're looking at, we would be 5,600 to 6,000 feet is kind of the next magic marker in aircraft performance.
Is that because your expanded fleet would include different aircraft then that would need?
Yeah. They'd be bigger airplane with bigger fuel loads. Instead of a 2,700 mile range, we're looking for airplanes that'll have a 4,000 mile, 4,300 nautical miles. So 10 hours is kind of what we're looking at as our next large fleet type.
Right. So your facility at the Hamilton Airport, do you lease that or do you own it? Or
we lease it, and I mean but as a tenant, we've kind of outgrown it. We're bigger than the guys who own the company now, Jetport. We operate more aircraft than they do, and we're starting to squeeze out the executive airplanes. And of course, the executive airplanes move once a week. We're moving twice a day.
Right. So the patients that you're flying either into Ontario or out of Ontario, I assume most of them would be before getting onto your planes, they'd be at a major hospital, would they not?
Yeah. Well, not so quick, I guess. We do probably 70% of our patient transfers are not into or out of Ontario. Like we just moved a fellow from Anchorage to Manila. They'll come home tonight from Manila. Last week, we moved a guy from Fayetteville to Denmark. The people that we moved a young child from Jamaica to Miami. The Bermuda work, we moved them into Boston, Baltimore, or Toronto Sick Kids. We have an agreement with Toronto Sick Kids. We do their neonate work. But I think what we'll see this winter is we'll see a lot of Canadians, like our bariatric fella. Him and his wife had just driven from Calgary to Chandler, Arizona. Right. 6 hours later, he was in the hospital. And so we went down, picked him up, moved him back to Calgary. So the cruise industry, we believe, will be doing a lot of that this year. If there are beds in Ontario, we'll move them back home. But if not, you guys all have travel insurance. You'll see on that, once you put on the bifocals, we read the fine print. They can move you to the nearest suitable facility for treatment. And often that is, they will negotiate what's called a rack rate with a major hospital group like Broward down in Florida. And let's say, Mayor, you're you're sitting in Barbados and, you go out for a drink and somebody trips you or something. Oh, and you've broken an arm. Sorry.
Yeah.
But you know how it works, and you're going to want to get home. And
Yeah, I wouldn't be in Barbados. I couldn't afford to go to Barbados.
no, okay.
Mayor Davis, you still have the floor, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, so the crews that get onto your planes, both flight crew and medical crew, do they come like out of Hamilton and Toronto? Do they go to the Hamilton Airport and they fly out of there?
Yeah, and they live. Some of them live in Brantford. Like I said, some live in. I think we've got a couple in Guelph. Quite a few in Hamilton, Mount Hope area. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
Mayor Davis. Sean, you had a comment there. We're going to have to shorten this up. We're running out of time here.
Yeah, Peter, thanks again. I had a lot of questions going in. You've answered almost all of them. Just two quick follow-up operational questions. One is de-icing. How often do you guys have to have de-icing, and how critical is on-site de-icing to your operations?
With a hangar, it really trims it down, Sean. I mean, if we can bring an airplane out of cold storage and into a snowfall, as you know, it's not going to melt and stick to the airplane. It'll just blow off. We try to avoid de-icing, and our clients do because of the cost. I mean, Type 4 now, I think it's about $11 a liter. And I mean, we've been hit with de-icing bills of $15,000, which you go back to the client and say, oh, we had to de-ice the airplane. Well, we would have left the patient. The patient was stable. We could have repatriated them tomorrow, that kind of thing. So, so we're hoping. The other thing we have noticed is your weather's better there. And I think that's an escarpment thing, that we're getting the wind off of Lake Ontario over the escarpment. Hamilton gets kind of crappy weather at the airport, and it seems to settle in on the airport. Where Brantford is open, Hamilton will be fogged right in. So,
thank you, Sean. One more, and then that's it.
Just the last part of that is, as far as approach minimums go, you're used to, I think, probably 200 at Hamilton. Is there a number you guys use operationally that you need to?
I believe you have an R&P approach there, which is 400 or something like that. And there's no doubt, if the weather is crappy, we'd be coming into Hamilton, because it is a Cat 2 or Toronto.
Okay.
But I think as R&P technology and GPS technology gets better, the approach minimums will drop to about 200.5, which is standard ILS minima. And we'll be able to do that off an RNAV approach without a ground-based system. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Bob Wyatt, you had a quick question? Unmute yourself, please, Bob. We can't hear you. Still can't hear you, Bob.
He's answered all the questions I was thinking about, and he did a very good presentation, and I congratulate him on that.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much. So we are out of time here on this. I would call the question on receiving the report and indicating that we will be getting back to you. All those in favor, raise your hand. And it looks like, Kelly, we are unanimous. So thank you for taking the time to come and visit with us this morning. We're now on to 3.3, which is the airport operating and capital budgets, which hopefully everybody has had a chance to review these. They were sent out before. And Rick, you have the floor to do a semi-quick presentation for us.
Do you want us to leave,
Can you hear
Chairman?
me?
You can stay if you want. It's public, but Kelly's going
Okay.
to put you into the observation level.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much.
Can you hear me,
Thanks.
Mr. Chair?
Thanks very much, gentlemen.
Yes, we can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay.
Maybe move the mic a little closer to your mouth, please, Rick.
Is that better? Is that
Yes.
better? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Just a quick run through of the operating capital budget for the airport. I was asked to bring some of this information, so I'm going to run through it pretty quickly. We have
If you're talking, I can't hear you. Rick, you're muted.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's better when you're unmuted.
Of course. I'm going to try it again. Here we go. All right. You can see the slide?
Yes, sir.
All right. So so far to date in 2021, we've received $821,000 in revenue from rents, fees and services, and internal recoveries. We're projecting that's considerably over budget, and we're projecting a budget in 2022 of $740,000. That's a slight reduction in internal recoveries because we are no longer using the section of the barn on the east end of the airport for parks over storage over the winter. So there's less recoveries there. We don't budget for film shoot revenue in this airport budget because it is sort of hit and miss, and we haven't been able to depend on it. In 2021, so far, we have received $70,000 in revenue from film shoots at the airport. That money is shown in the $775,000 revenue line, and it is kept within the airport operating budget. It doesn't go to another department. And at the end of the year, the surplus in the operating revenue would be added to the airport reserve. And so that $70,000 is currently being shown as going to the airport reserve at the end of the year. As I said, for 2022, our budget is a fairly static budget. The only change is that we are not anticipating the internal recoveries from the Parks Department for storing their equipment over the winter. In terms of expenses, we are under budget so far this year, $617,000 of a $766,000 budget. For the most part, that is related to services. We haven't used as many of our service-related budget lines as we otherwise might, given the slow pace of the airport, relatively speaking, due to COVID. So we are going to anticipate a healthy surplus at the end of the year for the operating budget at the airport. Once again, our projection for a budget for 2022 is a slight decrease. Again, there's some internal payments we aren't going to be making due to some internal efficiencies. At the end of the day, our budget is related to 47% is services, 34% is internal charges, and then there's some long-term debt servicing and some goods that we purchase. The contracted services includes the contract with Brantford Flight School or Brantford Flying Club, Brantford Flying Club for the airport operations. In terms of our capital projects for 2021, there is some money in the budget for runway lighting replacements. We've been working through airport building repairs at building 180 and 190. The reconfiguration of runway 05 and 35, there was a $130,000 project on the books for that, but the tender came back very, very much higher than that, and we're reconsidering that project given some of the other advice we've received. We've done our obstacle and GIS utility survey, so that part of it is an annual expense, about $5,000, but we're carrying the budget for $15,000, of which it's a 3-year contract for $15,000, and that work has been completed for this year. This airport perimeter security fencing is also underway, and we have some money left to complete repairs around the perimeter fence. There's a number of other airport capital projects that are on the books in terms of decommissioning the taxiways, doing some T-hanger construction and a commercial hangar door replacement at hangar 150. We are waiting for that install. We anticipated it being installed in August, but due to COVID-related procurement issues, the install has now been, I guess, tentatively for December. In terms of 2022, there's a number of other capital works on the books, a $350,000 extension to complete the extension of T hangar building 170, as well as some miscellaneous capital for building 130 repairs to that building, sprinkler replacement at hangar 150, some line painting and crack sealing. We completed all of the line painting this year, so we won't need to do much of that next year, but we have a number of crack sealing areas that we're going to work on, and then do some taxiway rehabilitation. This is the 5-year capital project forecast for what we're working on over the next year currently, or the next few years currently. There's a lot of information here. You've had it for several days, I hope, to be able to review. Are there any questions? I'm happy to try and take them at this point.
Okay, so we'll go back to the main screen so I can see who's raised their hand on this. Okay. So, let's put this on the floor first. I have a mover and a seconder. Put this on the floor. Moved by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Coleman. I guess that the screens are flipping on me all the time. I can't get to you quick enough. Okay, so questions on this capital budget. That's nice to see. One question before I don't see anybody's hand up yet. Where is this been presented to council yet? Or are we just sort of getting information?
So you're right. The 2022 budget, both capital project and operating budget, are in draft stage at this point and have not been presented to council. This is the current state of the draft budget for 2022 and in both capital and operating.
Okay. Councilor Martin, you have the floor, sir. Rick, you want to put your camera on for us or no? For you?
I sure can. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. Councilor Martin, you have the floor, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Rick, you say we're not storing the parks vehicles in the barn anymore. Do you know where they're being stored?
Yeah, so 400 Grand River at the fleet, because Brantford Powers left that facility, and so they're consolidating the fleet operations between 1 Sherwood and 400 Grand River. That's part of our accommodation strategy, and so the space at the airport's no longer needed. Not only is it not in great shape, but it's also a better place for the fleet to be stored and maintained over winter at 400 Grand River.
The T hangar that's slated for 2023, could that be moved up a year? Because I believe we have the desire for it now.
We can certainly bring it forward if that's what your suggestion is, that we look at bringing that forward into the 2022 budget. Our challenge, honestly, Councillor Modern, is bandwidth of the team to actually deliver on that, but we've certainly figured out that the demand is there. So that's a piece that we can take away and look at with our capital financial advisors.
Even if that could be tentatively moved forward, pending the ability of staff to complete the work.
If it's approved, then we can work on it. Yeah, for sure.
Councillor Martin, Councillor Martin, at this time, I would entertain a motion to do that so that it's in the minutes to go forward for staff.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that? Thomas? Okay, I'll call the question on the amendments there, or whatever we want to call it. Rick, all those in favor?
Just so I'm clear, the resolution is the recommendation from the board is that the T hangar project be moved ahead into 2022 in the draft capital budget for presentation to council.
So that's the question. All those in favor, raise your hand. We are unanimous on that, except Ron. Did you want to raise your hand, Ron? Okay, thank you. All right. Martin, you still have the floor. I don't mean to embarrass you, Ron. Yes, I did. Councilor Martin, you still have the floor, sir.
Yeah, for 2023 and 4, new taxiway to general aviation. Where exactly is that?
That is on the west side, Councillor Martin, to be able to add additional T hangars along the general aviation area. We're going to need to add some taxiways to access those new T hangars, and it's in the airport master plan, which I think the diagram is later in the agenda when we have a chance to look at it. But that's around the west side of the airport to make it easier to access future T hangar space.
Will that need to be moved forward if we move forward the T hangar, or is it not required? For that?
I don't think it's required for that, but certainly that's something that I'll take a look at, and if necessary, I'll bring that one forward a year as well.
Okay, thank you. That's my questions, Mr. Chairman.
I don't see other hands raised, so.
Oh, sorry, you do have.
I'm sorry, Ron. I just saw your yellow there.
Oh, that's no problem. Just a quick question. Going back to what Councillor Martin just said, I'm just wondering, as a new member of the board, is there like an orientation package or something that you normally give new board members that show perhaps the layout of the airport, the tenants, where they are, perhaps the terms of their lease, that sort of thing? Because like I'm hearing various hangar numbers and all that sort of stuff, but it's very abstract to me right now. Background information would be helpful to a new board member.
Rick, can I just jump in? Can we schedule that and just set a date sometime over lunch, hopefully in January? My free lunch.
You and your lunches.
I know.
I'll be happy to buy.
Throw the lob up there for you. But can we schedule that in the middle of January? And whatever board members want to come out, because even I get confused by the numbers as which one's that one. I like to say that's the Brant Arrow hangar, that's the Flying Club hangar. You know what I mean? Can we schedule that, Rick?
We can do that. Schedule an orientation session of some sort for January. That would be fine. Thank you.
Is that okay, Mr. Johnson?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thomas, you have the floor, sir. If you shut your mic there.
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest sending him a copy of the master plan as well, because when I joined the board, that was very helpful to see not only where, like, the master plan is very, very useful for seeing what's here and also what's supposed to be expected to happen.
It's a large, thick document, Mr. Johnson. I'll print one out for you and arrange for you to pick it up.
Is it possible, Ron, would you be amenable to having it emailed to you as a PDF and you can read it on your computer?
That'd even be better.
Okay.
Yeah.
We go that, and maybe Kelly, if you could send it out to everybody.
Sure, I can do that.
Saves our printing costs, protects trees, protects the environment. Anyway, anybody else have any questions on the capital budget before I call the question to approve it as it is? All those in favor? Opposed? Nobody? Carried. Okay, we are now on to items for consideration. And Sean, you have the floor, sir, for an airside verbal operations update, please.
Thank you very much. I'll keep it brief because I know time is short today. Just a few updates from the report from last meeting we had. One is on the customs situation, where customs has been temporarily suspended for COVID purposes here. I did receive a response from them, just a form letter from Travel Canada stating that yes, customs is suspended and will remain suspended. There will be an announcement if anything changes. So no real new information there, but we'll continue to petition them to have customs reinstated here at the Brantford Airport, so we can have our airport of entry status back in operation, which, as Peter Thayer said, of course, is a very important part of their operations and any operations here, really. Snow removal, we're getting to that season now. I've had a chance to meet with our snow removal contractor, go over some of the changes we're looking at this year, some concrete changes where some work is being done out there, an extra flight school operating here, certainly an extra thing for them to work around, more demands on the airport. And I'm going to meet with their team to cover safety protocols and priorities mid next week as well. Film production continues to be interesting. Film production. Rick may have more information to share on it, I don't know, but challenges with making sure operators have the necessary insurance and determining what insurance we require. As it stands, we're on a bit of a hiatus of doing film production. As you can see, can be a pretty lucrative thing to add to our budget at the end of the year. So hopefully we can get that sorted out and get more productions here. There's certainly interest. We had a film crew come through just yesterday again. So I'm sure you have seen that the Air Show has announced their plans to hold a show on June 25th and 26th, weekend show this year. Very different change from what we're used to. So a lot of discussion to be had there as to how that will affect the airport and tenants and so on. So looking forward to more information. We'll have a meeting next week or the week after, I think, with the airshow committee to get more information there. And lastly, I was asked to put together a list of airport users, corporate users, business jets, turboprops, things like that come to the airport. I was able to dig up a list which either has been or will be distributed to you folks here. It goes back to about 2005, as far as I can tell. I didn't create the majority of the list. Most of that was done by one of my predecessors, who was more familiar with corporate aviation. So I'm fairly confident in the names and everything that's on there. I myself only can recognize about half the names on there as aircraft or companies I know to have come and gone in the last 15 years or so here, but that will be distributed as you folks need. So that's all I've got for my update. And as always, I'm available. Any questions, a private tour, whatever you want, feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to.
Kelly, do you have that list, or Rick, do you have that list that you can shoot out to us? I've had a look at it. I believe there's somewhere between 125 to 150 people. Oh, we've got it right there. Okay, good. If everybody could have a look at it, I'd really like to see this get into the minutes, so the council is aware of all the corporate users that we have, and not just the air ambulance that we see, or Orange, but or SC Johnson, but the blind school is using it every Friday. We look like Toronto International Airport. And it is a big marketing tool for our facility. So everybody's had a look at that now. Perhaps Rick or Kelly, you could distribute it to everybody. And then as part of the motion to receive Sean's there is that the users be distributed to Brantford and Brant city councilors. Can I have somebody move that? Ron, okay, Thomas, moved by Thomas, seconded by Ron. Do you have a question, Councillor Coleman, or no? I'm quite jealous of you, Councillor Coleman. You're sitting there so relaxed in your comfortable chair. Anyway, and you too, Bob. Anyway,
we had a very long council meeting last night, so
I'm not complaining or criticizing. I'm just saying I'm jealous. So I will call the question on that. All those in favor, raise your hand, and we are unanimous on that. So, Rick, you have the floor now, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have a quick update related to the land purchase and land lease proposals that we've been talking about. You obviously heard 2 business opportunities or expansion opportunities today. There is another one that has, we're still waiting on a more detailed level of information from Bob Casey and Rob Timmerman. And once we have that information, we can bring it forward to this group for review. And the previous proposal from Mr. Henrique, at one point was being consolidated with the proposal led by Bob and Rob, but I'm not sure if that's still the case or not. Anyway, we will continue to provide an update as we have adequate information. You have seen the interest in Brantford Airport from Hamilton Flight Training and from Latitude Air Ambulance, and there are continuing to be other inquiries about bringing businesses to Brantford Airport. So,
I believe that you'll see something from Mr. Henrique, because he's interested in building a hangar there too. So,
excellent.
Anything else?
The other piece that I wanted to speak about, and it's an attachment into the agenda package. As I mentioned in the previous meeting, we had asked the VNG consultants to prepare a letter of review of the master plan and the infrastructure, help us make sure we're focusing on the correct infrastructure priorities. I've attached that report for the board to review. It's a fair amount of material, so I encourage you to do that. Obviously, their preliminary findings are focused on the actual airside infrastructure, prioritizing crack sealing and making sure that our pavement condition reporting is done so that we can prioritize a multi-year rehabilitation program for the runways and taxiways, as that is such a critical part of the infrastructure that is really irreplaceable once it deteriorates past the point. So I think that as staff review that material and build it into the capital master planning some of the things that your recommendations earlier in the meeting to support the hangars and the taxiways and the crack ceiling and those kinds of things, making sure that they're done in an appropriate, timely manner will be really helpful to staff as we move forward with that.
On that report, if everybody could please just write down page 61 out of 75, which is the key recommendations. Once you take a chance to do that, and can we put this on the agenda for the January meeting, sir?
Yep.
Okay,
we'll bring forward as a discussion point receiving for information today, and we'll bring it forward as a discussion point at the January meeting, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
And that's my report. Thank you.
Okay. Could I have a mover and a seconder, and then we'll call the question. Councillor Coleman, seconded by Bob Wyatt, and all those in favor of his report carried unanimously. We have one consent item, which is the minutes. Could I have a mover and a seconder for the minutes? Moved by Councillor Coleman, seconded by Councillor Martin. You got to get your hand up faster, Thomas. You came in third on that one. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. So we will try and meet again in January. Hopefully there'll be something. Thomas, I'm sorry. You have some new business?
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to request that maybe we can schedule for the next meeting in-camera session to discuss some of the proposals, like the flight school, like the land sales from the last. I know I didn't make it to the last meeting, but I think it was suggested at the last meeting that we have an in-camera session to discuss the potential land sales. And lastly, I also wanted to request maybe an update at the next meeting regarding a land purchase. Going back, I think 2 meetings ago, it was discussed that some adjacent land to the airport was for sale. And I believe that is a part of the master plan, was to expand some of the property there, to expand the runway, which we just heard in this meeting is something that we now have a potential user requesting. So I don't know if we can get an update if anyone's looked into that on the city's end.
We could definitely do that. I wouldn't want to expand any more on the conversation, but we can definitely do that. Rick, we can add that on to the next meeting. Okay.
Of course.
Kelly, why do these screens keep changing? When I find somebody, they've moved on me. So does anybody else have anything else before I adjourn the meeting? I don't see any hands up. Well, thank you everybody for attending, and we're adjourned.